I was invited up here to really share the story of my experience with emerald ash borer in Michigan. As someone who lived in Michigan and was impacted by emerald ash borer personally, but also as someone who worked for a municipality that had to grapple with managing over 9,000 public ash trees in the wake of EAB, and to tell you about some of those lessons learned and what we may have done differently if we had all the resources and insights that are going to be presented to you today by this panel. So I joined the City of Grand Rapids Municipal Forestry Department as an urban forestry technician in 2017, working collaboratively with the urban forester at the time on their EAB management program, which had already been in existence for over 10 years by 2017. And one of my initial tasks at the city was to review the first 10 years of EAB activities. I think we heard 10 years numerous times today, right? Here's the 10-year outlook for cost analysis. Here's the 10-year kind of plan that maybe you should have in place. So 10 years tends to be a reoccurring theme in EAB management, and it was here as well. We wanted to do a 10-year review, and we wanted to provide a story to the residents as well as to the council on the findings. And in my analysis, what I quickly learned and discovered is that progress that had been made with managing this destructive pest really laid on the backbones of a few community champions, a few people that really had ideas and insights and were coming to council meetings and were voicing their opinions, guiding the management. So Grand Rapids had over 7,000 ash street trees. That was about 15% of all of the street trees, and hundreds, if not thousands, more ash trees in both developed and undeveloped park areas. And those were all the responsibility of the city to manage. Unlike a lot of PNW cities, the city does take on the management responsibilities of all the street trees in a lot of Midwestern communities. And the initial plan proposed to City Council in 2007 was to remove all of those trees and only selectively replant them if it made sense to put a tree there, again, especially of that size. There were a lot of power line conflicts with the existing ash trees. So sometimes those trees maybe even were growing in lawns that were less than 4 feet wide. So, selectively replanting them. And even in 2007, the estimated cost of all of that was $12 million, even when those costs were a bit lower. So that was obviously a lot for the council to take in and figure out how to finance. And also the proposal was not received well. The residents didn't want to see all of the trees just cut down. And there was one resident who was a huge advocate, Dottie Clune is her name. She rallied her neighbors to see if the city could create a no-cut list, and if that no-cut list could then lead to a treatment program, and if the residents could provide funding for the treatment program. So in a matter of 6 weeks, there were 300 trees added to the no-cut list. And that really proved that the residents wanted something different. So eventually the city did end up treating 1,400 public trees that were deemed valuable and suitable for treatment. And then eventually, with staff changes, the next city forester, Joe Sulak, brought in a new goal. So there was only 1,400 ash being treated. There was still a lot of ash being removed, obviously. And he realized that there needed to be utilization of this wood, if possible. And that came following some examples of successful projects from municipalities like Ann Arbor, which Paul will talk about, and Flint, Michigan, which Margaret worked on. So the city of Grand Rapids had some good intentions for wood utilization. They even had good ideas, but just as everyone has faced before, they had capacity issues. They had staffing issues, and they had dealt with what we all dealt with, sharply diverted urban forestry funding around 2009. So that was going to be very limiting for them. But the next thing I learned in my 10-year EAB review was that champions like Dottie and Joe, who were the seed of an idea, weren't enough. A plan needed to be put in place that could be rallied by numerous people and could be taken as staff turnover occurred from one person to the next. So at one point when I was working at the city, we had thousands of large logs sitting in our municipal log yard, as you can see here, that had not been processed. And the log yard was really overwhelmed. And it was a constant point of conversation between crews, between city management, and it always led to the same question: what are we going to do with all of these logs that have just been sitting here for 5, 6, 7 years? What is the plan, especially as trees continue to be cut down by our city crews and the log storage capacity of the yard continues to be reduced? So this is oftentimes the reality of a quickly moving invasive pest. So the problem started getting us thinking on the concept of what could we do, or what could the city have done better to proactively address the log issue, and what were the missed next steps. So there was obviously a lot that could have been implemented along the way. And if we knew what we know now, we probably would have done 4 things that I imagine a lot of people will touch on today. 1, established and enforced a better log sorting and management system in this municipal yard. 2, sought out those public-private partnerships, exploring wood utilization options. 3, continued conversations with those residents and EAB champions throughout those 10 years, not just at the beginning. And then 4, written a comprehensive wood utilization plan for the city with some directions and objectives. You know, overall, I'm really proud of Grand Rapids. They treated a lot of trees. They didn't have much time to prepare for EAB. And I think they invested where they could. But I think in Oregon and Washington, since EAB was caught so early, we can do better. We have a lot more time to prepare. And it's a lot more time than many Midwest cities ever had. So we also have more urban forestry funding, as evidenced by those IRA funds closing today. And we have a lot of experts in the room that have already dealt with this invasion in the Midwest and the eastern states. I also think we have a lot of opportunity for collaboration and exploring some really cool utilization ideas that can be the solution to numerous urban forestry issues that we all face.